you walk through that door, where it's going to take you, it's going to take you someplace it's never going to take me.
Right. Yeah, comparison, is a thief of joy.
Welcome to the Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
What I used to hear these programs called within companies are feedback programs, and I still think feedback is not a bad name for it. But I've also heard of like ideas programs. So the famous example that some people in Dallas-Fort Worth know about is that American Airlines had an ideas program a few years ago, and someone said, no one eats the olives in our salads. This is when you got a meal on the plane every time or something, which is certainly only for first class now. But no one's eating the olives in our salads, and we're wasting a lot of money. And so someone turned in that idea into the American Airlines Ideas program, and it saved them $1 million a year or something, some kind of money, whatever it was. And the person actually got to benefit something from that too. They actually got a monetary thank you award from that. So I think, last week we talked a lot about turning, sort of like improving processes and sort of making things repeatable and taking things that might really work sometime and then turn that into a standard operating, in your words, into a standard operating procedure, right? Yeah. So like, how do we make things more repeatable when they're good? And I think this week really dovetails really nicely with that as we talk about feedback or idea programs that companies can have and that companies can leverage. Because then those feedback points or those idea points that team members can provide, those can become standardized procedures at times. Some of those things are things that should be fixed all the time. For example, my dad, when he used to run a metal company, he ended up having certain ways of tracking the metal. So they were losing metal through shrinkage, and it was costing them money. And so he put in a system to track the metal better, so they'd have a better idea of what their inventory was. And so he took what was a pain point and turned it into a gain through observation and from feedback. And he turned that into an idea that saved the company money and helped them out. So stuff like that. So I think talking a lot, I think coming off the heels of last week where we talked about specifically improving processes, I think this week talking about feedback programs, idea programs, listening to our employees and finding ways to do that is perfect, on the back of last week.
So it's like updating SLPs or updating current ideas or finding better ways, because just like, at some point, I mean, the olives were there on the salad in the beginning for a reason, because everybody used to eat them, but something changed. Maybe the quality of the olive changed. And so now people decided not to eat them. We don't know why they're not eating them. That's not really the point. The point is that they're not eating them, and so we can either figure out why they're not being eaten or just take them off, because they're not complaining about the salad. The salad is still fine,
But you have to,
it'd be different if somebody was complaining about the salad, then you're having to try to find why. Whereas,
Well, and the problem is you can't assume that team members will pass along feedback, and you can't assume that team members will pass along ideas. And let's think about it. There's a lot of psychology that you encounter out there in your workforce. Some people are afraid, right? They're afraid that they're going to get in trouble if they give feedback, particularly if it's negative feedback or a negative idea, right? So that's one thing, is that they're afraid for their jobs. I mean, we don't know what people have been through. I mean, they may even have had a rough childhood and their dad yelled at them all the time. They may not even be able to get feedback because they're afraid of criticism or rejection. We don't know. So you have to create sort of a culture of listening and a culture of safety and a culture of kindness. And then you have to be intentional about seeking that feedback and seeking those ideas from your teams.
Yeah, and sometimes it's empowering key individuals So let's just say, if you're on an airplane, and whatnot, there's one person who's there, who's just part of their responsibility is to kind of capture this feedback. I don't need everybody to get feedback, but can I get one person per team to capture feedback, to pass along from the entire team? And again, it's always helpful if you have a solution. It's not, that way you're not complaining. But I think that type of information is amazing. Hey guys, just letting you know, nobody's eating these. Do with it what you want to do with it. Right. Everybody's throwing them away.
But see, American Airlines had a program, and it was like a suggestion box. People talk about the suggestion box like it's a very, very old school thing. It doesn't have to be old school and irrelevant.
So, okay. So feels like a whole nother life ago. But back when I used to work at a corporate job into a corporate environment, they had something like this. And it was a super, not only waste of time, but just waste of my energy, because not only are you, and I'm just talking about this one particular company, but not only are you not going to do anything about my suggestion, you're not even going to let me know that my feedback was heard and give me a time frame. And so that was my deal, that whenever, they came to, our specific part of the company and said, hey guys, we want feedback. I stood up and I said, hey, I'm not going to give you any feedback if you're, number one, not going to do anything about it. And number two, you're not going to tell me, hey, I've heard you. We're not going to do it right now, but maybe in the next 6 months, we'll try to implement it, to let me know, that it wasn't just a waste of my time, and they heard that, because the whole room was like, heck yeah, what he said, and so that's where you can't just ask for it, even if it's an idea that you don't want to go with, you can say, hey, maybe not right now. We're trying some other things. It's a great idea. We've heard you. That's the number one thing, but.
Yeah, I think I read a book called Quick and Easy Kaizen, and it talks about a feedback program. It talks a little bit about Dana Corporation and stuff like that. And it really does echo that feedback. You have to, when you give feedback, you want to be responded to. So that's one thing that I got from the book. And you want to, I think with Dana Corporation, they make their plant managers and different things get back to every single person in 24 hours. You are guaranteed a personal response to every idea you give. Number one. Number two, they a lot of the feedback and the ideas are actually feedback about how you can improve your own job. And so they're just empowering you. Like they said, hey, yeah, we like your idea. If you want to do it that way, that sounds great. Do it that way. You're closest to the situation. And so there's a little bit of autonomy and purposefulness there, because you get to a little bit modify your own job. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Cause there is a little bit of that. Like, I don't need a VP of sales creating an SOP for me over here in the engineering department. You don't know anything about what I'm doing. Like, the output, but you don't know my day to day. So, so yes, I want to be able to empower you. Hey guys, this is the overall goal. It's where we're heading. If you need to adjust this on the back end, I'm giving you a foundation of where you need to start from. Mm-hmm. If you need a different tool, I know there's some companies that do that. Said, hey, man, if you need a different tool to do your work, to get it done better and faster, go get it. Who cares? I know that you've talked about that before. I don't remember who that was.
Yeah, my current company is very flexible about letting me buy what I need to buy for the most part. I have a lot of autonomy in that. So that is really, really helpful. Although we do have certain standardized things as well. And we have quite a bit of support across the organization for the most part, I would say, actually. So I think all that's great stuff. But the point is that here's the thing. As a manager, you think, or as an executive, let's go even higher, right? As an executive, you're used to being among the smarter people in a typical crowd that you're in, right? So you have a little bit of a false, and you're right, you rose to be an executive. Part of the reason why might have been because of a certain amount of intelligence, right? That's fine. probably also had good social skills, and you were adept at navigating that, and it helped you grow. And so all that's great stuff. But the fact is that the collective is going to be smarter than you. And so if you're not going to listen, and if you're not going to solicit that feedback, then you're going to limit yourself, because even with your brilliant brain, you're just not going to have all the possible ideas. You certainly won't have the on the ground, the closest to the customer or the closest to situation visibility, because it's not like you're the one doing the installation, or you're the one making cold calls, or whatever it is. Like, you're 3 layers up. So you have to find a way to access that very immediate information from on the ground, first and second level team members. But all the stuff that Beastmode is talking about is a problem. People are skeptical, right? They don't think you care. They don't think you're going to listen. They don't think you're going to do anything. And so those are the barriers. So we have a couple of different barriers. We've got the executive who thinks they know it all, and plus they're busy and they already have a mission. They're busy enough with the 11 things that they know they need to work on that they don't need another 70 ideas from the team. Fair enough, but one of those may cost you a lot of money if you don't, institute those issues. Plus, also your team members, if they don't feel heard, you're going to lose team members more than if you did listen. There's so much to be said with this.
Yeah, I'll tell you. And again, from the last big corporate job that I worked at, sometimes a suggestion box without the heart behind it, like everything that you're talking about, is a BS way to try to gain employee satisfaction. Like, I don't want you to leave, and so I want you to either complain to me or whatever, and so that I can tell you I'm working on it, but I'm not really working on it. And I just, from people that you're talking about from the lower side, we know we could sniff that out real quick. And so there has to be that genuineness on the back end that's ready to do something with it, or ready to empower, ready to and that's whenever you get some real buy-in, just like you're talking about with Dana and some of these other businesses, Google, to just allow free flow. Hey man, create a new idea and then we'll support you, and it's like, oh my God,
Amazon
I can't do it fast enough
too. Amazon has that too. If you have an idea, you are allowed to work on it.
Okay.
And so there are some sort of like leading edge companies that do that. For the rest of us, we have a more of a traditional job. Maybe we need the serious air cover that you're talking about, where we feel there's freedom, there's safety, there's appreciation, there's listening,
value,
all those things, value. Let me give you an example. What if you have, let's say, 300 employees, right? And you ask them to provide one idea a month minimum, one really, written down, give it some thought, and everybody gets feedback on that. Everybody gets thanked. We start driving some of those things forward, right? What if every 100 suggestions you found a $10,000 savings, right? That means that's $30,000 a month in savings. That's 300, and this is only for a 300 person company, right? But if you said, I believe it should be possible that you either have found revenue in the amount of $10,000 if you had 100 suggestions come in, or found savings, right? So, and someone could argue with me and say that's just a totally fictional example, but my point is it's not zero. So assign whatever fictional number you want to put on it, right?
Yeah, and it's realistic.
And it's
values
kind of realistic.
The values you're giving are not astronomical.
Yeah, those are really,
10 grand a month. If you're at a hospital and you ask somebody in the laundry, one time, and they tell you a way to get things out and get them back faster, and you're just like, it could potentially be multi-million dollars.
Yeah.
And you're listening to somebody who's doing laundry. You know, imagine if you listen to everybody the same way. And then not only do you have that, you have employees that want to work harder. You have employees that want to stay. You have employees that value what you're doing. They want to treat your business like it's their own because they're bought in. I mean, come on.
I think it's powerful, man. And that what's great about that, like I don't know, when you just said, come on, right? My guess is something happened inside you. You said, come on, like something like that. You had a positive feeling when you said that.
Yeah. Well, it's like, how do you argue with it?
Right.
Where's the negative? Where's the downside of doing this wholeheartedly?
The reason I said that is because my heart leaped when you said that. Okay. And I watch for that a lot. I have a whole habit of watching what my heart reacts to.
Oh, okay.
Like, I think all of us should do it. Like we need to pay attention to our internal reactions. And if something is making our heart flutter, like happy or whatever you want to call it, pay attention to that feeling. And I think when you talk, I think you were talking basically about that being a great place to work and that being inspiring. That makes me really happy. Like that makes me even just a teeny bit emotional, not like all the way, but like even I feel that a little bit. Like I feel really happy when I think about creating an environment where people feel really valued and really engaged and they can really make a difference. And so I think what we can maybe end on from my perspective, and then I'll pass it to you, is that, when we talk about this, we might save $10,000 a month. That's great. Or we might, by the way, on the plus side, we might also gain 10,000, so you might have a net of 20,000 really. But also the fact of the employee retention, engagement, excitement, the culture that you're generating as well from that is really, really powerful. And what a great place to work where you might have someone stay with you.
There's more value there.
Yeah.
There's more value there. If you got a 300-person company and 10 people who are making 50 grand a year decide to stay that would have left. So now you're saying being $500,000 just by having a culture that not only invites, that's not just inviting ideas, but is coming back with it. So now there's even more from the monetary, hey, we're shipping our laundry to this location as opposed to this one.
Right.
Or we're shipping towels out on Monday instead of Tuesday,
So the retention alone, you just showed me something else, which is that the retention alone of employees is actually worth this, even if no ideas came from it, just the retention improvement.
Yeah, just the retention alone and the cost of not having to train new staff, and having to search and find and hire new staff.
30% of the salary in the first year. I saw a statistic. I'm probably butchering it, but I remember something about that. So it's some big number like that, like 30% of the salary is what the cost of ramping up an employee in the first year. That's crazy, right? It's a lot of money.
Yeah.
And then also the cost of recruitment is expensive when you have to replace people. So you kind of have those two aspects that are painful. But they're going to find savings through process efficiency or getting rid of olives or whatever it may be. They're going to find that. But the point that you're giving me is like there's some soft things that lead to some real hard dollars by having the culture improve and improving retention and so forth.
Yeah. Yeah.
So good. So good. One of my favorites.
Yeah. I love it, man.
Love it.
It's always great talking with you, Howie. Let's do it again.
Enjoy it. Enjoy it.
All right, brother. Until next week.
It's not the truth if you're holding back some of it. Partial truth isn't the truth, And so that's what it's making me think of.
I wish it was easy.